Nervousness when presenting can make us do strange things. Two of those are reading our speeches or trying to memorize them. Both are potential disasters and best avoided. We think we have to read it or memorize it because we are not sure we will know what to say. We are killing our audience when we read it, and we are jousting with a meltdown if we fail in our memorization. Today we will take a look at why these two techniques are a poor choice and look at what we can do instead. Welcome back to this weekly edition every Tuesday of the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President of Dale Carnegie Training Japan and best-selling author of Japan Sales Mastery. We are bringing the show to you from our High Performance Center in Akasaki Minato-ku, the business center of Tokyo. Why the cutting edge? In this show, we are looking at the critical areas for success in business in Japan. We want to help advance everyone's thinking so that we can all be at the forefront, the cutting edge of how to flourish here in this market. Before we get into this week's topic, here is what caught my attention lately. Tokyo-based venture company ALI Technology aims to release a mass-market flying motorcycle by 2022. Called a hoverbike. They plan to sell them in emerging economies in Africa, the Middle East and Asia where there is poor road infrastructure. The vehicle will use propeller power to hover centimeters above the ground and will stay at the desired altitude through technologies that use sensors to avoid obstacles. The price will roughly match those of a mini vehicle. In other news, 7-Eleven has launched an experimental program by shortening business hours at some directly run outlets in order to consider whether to revise its policy of operating 24 hours a day. There are currently 58,000 convenience stores in Japan dominated by 7-Eleven, Family Mart and Lawson. Most convenience store chains require that they be run without a break. The labour shortage in Japan, however, is driving this review. Franchise store owners are finding it increasingly hard to hire staff. There may also be some greater effort toward using automation and artificial intelligence to run stores without staff to get around the staff shortage problems. Finally, suicide is the leading cause of death among children aged 10 to 14 in Japan. It now accounts for 22.9% of deaths in the age group. Overall suicides peaked in 2003 at more than 32,000. In 2017, it had dropped to 20,465 per year. For children, there has been a surge in suicides after holidays, such as the spring and summer vacations. Last July, the government adopted a suicide prevention plan, strengthening counselling online, while also giving lectures to students on how to seek help when they have concerns and problems. This is episode number 79, and we are talking about don't read it. Sore de wa ikimashou. So let's get going. The content was really great, and the way the words were put together was quite clever. Obviously, a tremendous amount of work had gone into this piece. The speaker had a previous professional journalistic background, and the careful selection of just the right vocabulary and the descriptive flourishes were excellent. The speech, however, was a dud. It failed miserably because it was a written speech read to us. He could have emailed it to all of us and we could have read it for ourselves. If we read it for ourselves and we struggled with some of the big, clever journo-style words, we could still break out the dictionaries and plumb the meaning. The next speaker just spoke. He wasn't such a fluent talker, sometimes stumbling over some of his words, occasionally stuttering, but he had everyone's attention because he was authentic. He wasn't reading to us, he was looking at us and connecting with us. He had a slide deck, but he just used this as navigation to help us be drawn into his story. The issue here is, how should we deliver the content we have designed? Do we have to remember it exactly, memorize it, so we can be faithful to our speech, design and message? Speakers get very hung up on their content. They feel that they have to deliver the perfect coalition of words to get their message across. Our first speaker couldn't memorize this speech because it was way too long. That is the case for just about all of us. Usually the sheer effort required is not worth it. His speech content was far superior in the construction and the content compared to the second speaker. But the first speaker failed as a communicator because he read it to us. All of his effort went into crafting the script and nothing into the delivery. It was all about him and how clever he was, and not about us in the audience. If it is a very short speech, you can try and memorize it. But these are usually very special occasions. Japan is a very formal country, so if you're asked to speak at a friend or subordinate's wedding here, then there are established protocols and sentences you must use in Japanese. If you greet the Emperor of Japan, then there are set things you must say in Japanese. The specific content will depend on the occasion. Mick Jagger told me not to drop names, but I've done both, and I did memorize the content. These were short pieces, so I could manage them without getting myself into trouble. However, I did get myself into serious trouble though, trying to memorize a longer speech. I was the dean of the Kansai Consular Corps in Osaka at the time. I was asked to speak at the farewell party for the Chinese Consul General Lee before he left for Osaka to go to America. Now, I'd studied Chinese at university and thought, well, a bit rusty, but I thought I could pull it off, and doing a short speech at least. Because I'm not a fluent speaker of Chinese, having lived here in Japan for 30 plus years, I had to memorize the content in Chinese. The plan was to memorize the first part in Chinese and then switch to Japanese, which is much easier for me. As the Australian Consul General in Osaka at that time, I thought this would be a pretty deft piece of national branding, emphasising Australia's commitment to Asia. As we say, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Find out more when we come back from the break. If you want to become a fully competent and confident presenter, then do the High Impact Presentations course. We are all being judged when we speak, be it in the internal team meeting or in a public environment, be it the big bosses, clients, or an industry audience. Everyone is evaluating us. Don't blow it. Get the best training on the planet. Do the High Impact Presentations course now in either Japanese or English. This is the new Bible of selling in Japan. To sell to Japanese buyers, you need to create long-term partner-level trust, fully understand Japanese buyers' real needs, convince buyers with your solutions, overcome their hesitation, fear and doubt, know how to ask for the order, ensure repeat orders. This book is the product of 30 plus years in the trenches selling in Japan. Order Japan Sales Mastery now. Welcome back. Let me introduce a couple of coming opportunities to you. On May 27th and July 8th, we will run our one-day successful public speaking course. For 2 days on July 10 and 11th, we'll run our high impact presentations program. Details are on our website at enjapan.dalecarnegie.com. Back to where we left off. Now, this is where memorization can get us into trouble, and this includes trying to do it in your native tongue. Well, I wasn't doing this in English, so it was a high-risk strategy. So off I went with no safety net. I was doing fine, actually, until I got to a quote from a famous poem by Mao Zedong called Reascending Jinganshan. All of the Chinese guests in the audience immediately recognized it and started applauding enthusiastically. Now, at this juncture, I made a self-inflicted fatal error. While they were applauding, I was wondering, what do I do next? After having a brief internal debate with myself, I decided to wait for the applause to die down and then resume my memorized speech. Because it was a memorized speech and not natural conversation, it was a forced exercise to remember the words. Disaster. Suddenly, my mind went completely blank, and I mean total whiteout. I could not recall what came next. If you're ever on a big stage facing thousands of expectant faces and your mind goes blank, you will find that a solitary microphone stand is not much cover behind which you can hide your embarrassment. After about 20 seconds of stone, motherless silence, which felt like an eternity, I was somehow miraculously able to pick up the next part and complete the speech before switching into Japanese. I learnt it is probably wiser to avoid memorizing your speech. Please don't read it to us either, if you can avoid it. If it is a highly technical speech, something with gargantuan legal implications, if you get it wrong, a life or death statement to the media or on behalf of your absent big boss, then you may have no choice. If so, then please use as much eye contact with your audience as possible. You can study the text such that you really know the content. You can read the first part of the sentence, then voice the last section while looking at your audience and still remain perfectly faithful to the sacred text. You can read the words and add in gestures to emphasize the message. You can stand straight and tall and project confidence, reliability, credibility, and trust rather than hunching down over the microphone stand. You can have pauses to allow the audience to digest the key points. You can hit keywords for emphasis and use voice modulation to bring the text alive. Please, please, please do not have your head down, eyes glued to the text, and cut yourself off from your audience. Even better, read your audience, not your text. Observe if they are buying what you're saying. See if they are understanding the point. You don't have to memorize your talk or read it to us or read the slides to us. You can have speaking points and talk to those points. For the vast majority of speeches, a conversational tone of talking to key points will work extremely well. If it is a severely formal occasion and you either memorize it or have to read it, well, then go ahead. However, if you don't have that type of caveat, then look at us, talk to us, engage with us. We will forgive any sins of grammar, pronunciation, or lack of speaking fluency in the delivery. We will connect with you and we will receive your message. We will regard you highly as an authentic person who spoke from their heart, and we will remember you thereafter in a positive vein. The Cutting Edge Japan Business Show is here to help you succeed in Japan. Subscribe on YouTube. Share with your family, friends, and colleagues. Become a regular. Thank you for watching this episode, and remember to hit the subscribe button. Our website details are on screen now. enjapan.dalecarnegie.com. It's awesome value, so check it out. Please leave me some feedback on YouTube. I would love to know how this show helped and what other topics you are interested in for me to cover. Remember, I am here as a free resource to help you, so just tell me how I can help you best. You might also enjoy my weekly podcast. Look for the Leadership Japan series, the Presentations Japan series, and the Japan sales series, wherever you get your podcasts. In episode 80, we're talking about True North in sales. Find out more about that next week. So, yoroshiku onegai itashimasu. Please join me for the next episode of the Cutting Edge Japan Business Show. We are here to help you, and we've only got one direction in mind for you and your business, and that is up.